All right. Holy smokes. Another unbelievable night on the Unbroken Talk. Rich Widmer. I consider myself now, got a beautiful Nicole Cerella next to me. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that Italian name right.
Perfectly.
Beautiful. Because I got to tell you, Italian food is we won't get into that, but I'm the private investigator where I get to talk to and really find out what makes regular people like you and me tick and how strong a mind they are. Before I pass it over to Nicole, first and foremost, I want to thank you for the service. She came from law enforcement, and I think that's really where it originated as a sheriff's deputy, is where the story kind of starts. But I got to tell you, the majority of my guests that's been on, and I had a long stem, was powerful women. It's just something about, the beast within, I could say, and my mom's one of those. So without further ado, without me saying, this is another powerful woman coming on to share her journey, and it started in her line of work. So Nicole, it's about inspiring people. So you want to start wherever you want to start. I'll probably pause you and take you even back further, but start your journey where it started getting difficult, however it may be. Talk to us on who Nicole and what that journey looked like. Unpack it for us. Where are we starting?
Well, thank you for having me, Richard. I really appreciate being able to come on to this podcast. So I was a law enforcement officer, a deputy sheriff in upstate New York. I began my career in 1998. During the course of my career, I was injured. And as a result of the injury, years down the road, I sustained a neurological disorder. Because of that neurological disorder, I was very limited in what I was able to do. So from being very active with my family, I had two sons, or I still have two sons. I had a family, I had a great career. I was a college instructor, and everything came to a complete halt. My life, as I knew it, was pretty much over in my eyes.
From that, okay, so it gives me chills because I know the story sounds emotionally like just impactful, but I know the light at the end of the tunnel because I'm looking at you right now, which is just like, it's kind of, I see the ending already without hearing about it. I want to spin back way before that because we know, to want to be in law enforcement, that takes a certain type of person. And that takes a certain type of mind frame because what I read on that intake and what you went through, shit. I always say this, Nicole, there's two paths you can go on. It's either one, that really hard path that ends when you're 6 feet under, or you're taking the other high road, which is a mountain that you have to climb. But I always share that there's one common element, and it's that power of the mind. So you had it when you just, there was something there saying you joined the law enforcement. Take me like early on childhood. What type child were you? And how about you had parents, mom and dad in the picture, and siblings? How big, what was the core of your family in the beginning?
So I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. That's where I was born and raised. I was raised by my mother and father. They ended up divorcing. I have a sister and a younger sister. And my grandmother pretty much took care of my sister and I while my parents worked all the times.
What age is this around?
I was 10. My sister was 5.
Okay, so 10 and 5. So that started not the normal, right? It's a normal now, we say. It's not the nucleus moment. I get all that. So that was a challenging time. How, if you recall, 10 is not that far away. You don't look much older than that now. Kudos to you. But, 10, as far as from a memory standpoint, how were you feeling then? What was the atmosphere like for you? Challenging as a kid?
It was challenging for me. It was very challenging. No child, I don't think, wants to see their parents divorced, separated, having a broken home. So for me, it hit me very hard. I think my sister, because she was younger, it didn't affect much, but because I was the older one, it did affect me. I ended up becoming, I don't want to say aggressive, but I was an angry child.
That's where I'm getting at. So, I mean, so that temperament, you were going in that direction. Were you in participating in like activities, sports, or anything? Were you the push towards that? Was that in the realm at all?
It was not really sports at that age. It was more dance. I was heavily involved in ballet and tap and jazz, all the girl things. And as I got older, I was on the track team, and then I was on the swim team. Because of my size and my slowness, I was not very good at those things. But I ended up taking karate and falling in love with that.
With that, okay. So as you progressed, raised by both grandparents,
I just
just your grandmother. Okay, so not as the relation with dad at all, father figure in the picture at all.
My father and my mother were very much in the picture. I lived with my mom and my
Live with your
grandmother.
mom.
My dad would come and take us.
Okay, it was just nothing. And listen, this is not prying, just to set the standard as far as they were there, not together, that type of thing, but
Yes.
nothing physical or emotional abuse per se
No,
challenging with that.
no, nothing challenging with that. It was just me not understanding why my family was not together.
Right, right, right.
Both sides of my family were large units, so I had a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles, and everybody was always there to support me.
Do you feel, was there, you mentioned anger or so? How were grades? How was school as you progressed?
My grades were decent. As I got into high school, I went to a private high school, and that's when I really took my education seriously, and I needed to start changing the way I was. And I still had some anger issues, but luckily for me, the athletic director there took me under his wing, and I started working for him.
That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that. So two things I want to freeze, and there's a point I want to make here. So you had anger involved in activities. Do you feel remembering like using that anger and developing that sense of competition? Because I hear that's where it's going, like wanting to be the best you could be, like channeling that. Or did you feel you were just burying that shit that you were dealing with and focusing in that direction of competition, building your mind?
I have to say, my older cousin, he was into bodybuilding, and I used to see how he was while I was in high school. And seeing that, having Arnold Schwarzenegger as, one of the idols, Lou Ferrigno, I would say to him, this is who I want to be. I want to be the female version of them. And he was like, well, you can do that. I'm 5'3". I think at the time I was probably 85 pounds, and I was very scrawny. And the thought of that was, yeah, I would love to, and I'm going to do it. But the reality was setting in, like, I don't know if, this can really happen. I had some doubts, but I had
Right.
the confidence on the exterior, but the interior, I had
So
my,
you had some inspiration to start
yes.
developing that, and you got a taste, you enjoyed it, and you mentioned you got in from high school to college. You talked about grades, shifting gears. What was a defining moment, went from, going day to day to now what you expressed, getting serious?
From probably my early teenage years, I wanted to either be into juvenile probation or become a police officer. I wanted to do something where I felt like I was giving back to something. And I also had a special bond where I felt like I needed to help other people or other children that maybe were in a situation like me or far worse. Because although for me, my situation was terrible, it really was not terrible after what I saw other people were going through. Mine was just a hiccup. It wasn't, a devastating event.
That is like, I commend you for that. I love hearing that shit. It's, you saw something. So you, man, I tell you what, hats off to you. Just think about it, and if you may, and I'm going to outline it. So you didn't have the nucleus family, the Brady Bunch, with neither did I. I mean, that's few and far between. I get it. It's challenging. That's why you unfolded with this powerful in mind you have, right? But I'm trying to find out how that developed, like where the start is. So you had that influence, you had the struggles with it. What do you feel was that defining moment or that inspiration to want to go towards to help people? We know it was you didn't get, you want to give what you didn't get, but where do you remember that time that said, I want to go towards this?
I don't really remember the defining moment at that point. However, I did go to college right out of high school, and instead of taking the courses that I wanted to take, I went into business. Why I went into business, it was I was going to move away from home. My best friend and I were going to be roommates. We're going to have fun in college. It had nothing to do with school. I did a year of that and I absolutely hated it. Transferred schools, went into criminal justice and criminal law. And at the time I was dating, well, my now ex-husband, but my boyfriend at the time. We ended up getting married 2 years later and he was in the military. So my education got put on hold. So at 2 years of college, I stopped, got married, and moved to upstate New York. And then from there, I started a family and everything that I wanted to do was put on hold, but I knew eventually it would happen. It just needed to take a little bit of time. So after I had my son, about a year and a half later, I went to a community college up in Fort Drum, New York, and started my criminal justice degree all over again.
So when we're circling back before college and you started the family, there you had a passion to want to get into that, helping people in that degree. Do you feel that connection of what you didn't get, what you were lacking growing up?
Yes, and I think it was what I really wanted. I needed to find like a role model. And although I had, family members, I didn't consider them as a role model, but my athletic director, he was like my role model because he was an outsider who believed in me and he never gave up on me. And to this day, he reaches out to me, tells me how proud he is of me. And I always thank him for giving me the opportunity to be able to work because, I needed money. I had to, pay for my own car, my own insurance, my own gas. There was a lot of things I needed to take care of myself in high school. And he saw that I was a hard worker and not, somebody that would be lazy. So during the summers after school, I would work bingo Monday nights. I'd work till 11:30 at night, drive an hour home, and then have to be up at 5 a.m. to get back to school. Every day I had something to do. And he saw that no matter what, I was able to do that. And he gave me that opportunity. And he really made me feel as though I had a purpose. And he always told me that there was something special about me that he felt like he needed to help me. And it was great because the vice principal, Sister Geraldine, probably was sick of seeing me in her office all the time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
kind of
You gravitated. Unfortunately, not having that direct father figure or man in your life per se, what you were grasping, that a girl type of thing. Sometimes hearing it from someone else that's recognizing it is so much more meaningful.
Exactly. Because, I would hear it from my mother. I would hear it from my father,
Right.
but it didn't have that same impact as somebody that really didn't know me and saw what I was actually doing. So I think for me, seeing that and then also knowing what I wanted in my life, and I would see underprivileged kids. I worked in soup kitchens and during high school, and I would see the struggles that they had, and I didn't want anybody to be like that.
You were just building that compassion, that mind frame, and
Yes.
just wanting and feeling what the support you got from that the athletic degree. That's incredible. So that kind of built on that. Was there any struggles through the high school or going through college with pharmaceuticals or drinking or numbing agents on that aspect?
No,
That's awesome.
no. Yeah, I can't say I didn't party in college.
Yeah.
I certainly,
I'm not talking about being, yeah,
but
no,
no, we
but
never had any issues. I never smoked a day in my life.
you
It was
just built that passion of wanting, you felt the direction that you wanted to go into, and that's what
right.
it
And
is.
I knew that's what I wanted, but I also wanted to start a family. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a family. Things were playing out. It just wasn't going the exact way, like a regular going to college, then starting a career, getting married. I started with getting married, continuing my education, then going into my career. I went back. I would go to school at night when my ex-husband was home to watch our son, and I did that every night. I took as many courses as I could, continued to do that until we got transferred, and then when we got he got transferred to Albany, New York, and when he was transferred there in the military, I continued my education. I just had to enroll. I finished my associate's degree, and then I continued on through SUNY Empire State College.
That's outstanding.
And I ended up pursuing my bachelor's degree. And during that time, we found a place we wanted to be, said, I really want to go into law enforcement. And so I started taking exams just to take them. I also took the law school admissions tests because I wasn't sure if I was going to go to law school or if I was going to be a police officer. But
Right.
I said, let me just start taking tests. So, that's what I did.
That is outstanding, man. So, wow. What a journey and driven no matter what. There was not, you see how the strength of your mind just pursued. At any point in time, was there, I just want to stay home with the kids? Any point in time wanting to quit?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't a time I wanted to quit. I just wanted to show my sons that you can still have a career, you can have a family, you can do it all. So when I first moved to the Albany area, I took a position as a childcare worker for juvenile girls that were in an institution. That is where I started realizing I really want to go into law enforcement. That helping these girls and just being a role model for them
Right.
was the first step for me to realize what more I can do.
Wow.
That was it. I can't say I haven't had shitty jobs in between. I took whatever jobs I could get just to make extra money. I would work nights, weeks, holidays, just so one of us.
You were living your passion. You were
Exactly.
enjoying your passion. So it unfolded. And at this point in time, you had 2 boys?
At this point, no. I still only had my older son, Tony.
Okay.
I would say he was 3 when we moved to Albany area. And then 2 years later, I had my second son, Joe.
Okay, so then you pursued ultimately that career to be a deputy sheriff.
Yes. So I had my son, and I believe it was about 9 months later, I received a phone call saying to come in for an interview for a law enforcement job. And
How rewarding was that call?
I was scared to death. I just had a child and a second child, and how is this actually? How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But I have to say, my ex-husband, he was the motivator for me. He's like, okay, let's start running again. You got to get back with it, and
Right.
you got to get back on track. And so that was the motivating factor. And then I took a position within the sheriff's department as a communications dispatcher.
Mm-hmm.
The next police academy came, which was the following year, and then I went to the police academy in August of 1999.
And you were in your mid-30s?
26.
You were a baby. You
Yes.
were a baby still. God bless
Actually,
you, man.
I was 25 when I went in, 26 when
26. That,
right.
Man, what a journey up to that point. I mean,
It
come
was,
on.
Yes, it was like a whirlwind. I was saying to myself, how am I going to do this with 2 kids?
How did you?
Not a lot of sleep. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, let's break that down. I mean, however way you want to twist it. I mean, this is, I hate to say it, but yeah, it's the norm, especially like the prices of everything and how costly it is. It's not a, figuratively speaking, one income with kids, and it's just craziness. So, take a step. Your husband at the time,
Yes.
full-time military?
Yes.
Full-time military.
He's full-time military. Luckily, during that year when I was going to the police academy, he had 10 years in, and he left the military.
Okay, so when there was help with the
Yes.
kids there, and then you're doing your thing. But I mean, think about that. Mom now in law enforcement, juggling. I mean, it was pure determination on following your passion.
Yes.
That's literally the mind frame. I mean, if you really think about it, you were living your dream on what you wanted to do.
Yes,
Everything
and I was on overdrive. I was on overdrive. There was no stopping me at that point. My mother sold her house in Massachusetts, moved to New York, bought a house down the street from me so she could help me because it was not easy. It was very, very difficult.
Well, you were driven. So it unfolds for how long were you going? Any challenges? How long was this life as a deputy sheriff continuing? Talk to us. How's it unfold?
So I continued to work. I was involved in an accident. And then as a result of that accident, subsequently, years later, I had to have surgery on my shoulder.
Are you able to, is it prying too much on work-related accident?
Yes, it was work
Or
related.
was it
In the line of duty, yes.
in the line of duty? We'll leave it at that then. So that initially then tragic enough to retire from the force?
No, not at the time. I ended up having surgery, and because of the surgery, I had some complications. Doctors couldn't figure out why I was having these complications, and I kept saying, my arm's going numb, my right leg, I'm having a lot of pain in it. I don't know what's going on. I was having a lot of swelling. I had difficulty moving. The doctor said, there's nothing wrong with you. We can't find anything wrong. We fixed the issues that you had. There's nothing wrong with you. So now I'm thinking I'm going crazy. Not only am I going crazy, the doctors don't believe me. My family is starting to not believe me because
Oh shit. And you're how old now, Nicole? How old are you here?
36.
36. So accident, repair, you're not better. They're telling you you're better.
They're telling me they fixed everything. They can't find anything wrong with me. And I'm saying, well, my fingers are turning purple. My arm's going numb. I'm having excruciating pain in my right leg. Something's not right. And they're saying, well, there's nothing wrong with your leg. Why? Are you looking for drugs? Are you looking, what are you seeking? And I'm like,
No shit.
yeah, it was brutal. And now everybody around me, they wanted to believe me, but how can you believe somebody when they can't find anything wrong with you? And maybe it is in my head. So
this was going on, this stem of going back, how long was this recovery and this?
So it took, I think 2 years and several doctors later.
You were beat up, man, for 2 years. Were you back to work or on leave?
No, I was on leave. I was on medical leave because yes. And I did every type of injections and, anything I could to try to chiropractor, just physical therapy. Nothing was working and I was getting worse. And the worst part was I was seeking doctors out, trying to find out, being my own advocate. I ended up seeing a pain management doctor. That was difficult because they treat with medication.
Yeah, I was going to say, at this point,
a lot of times the medication that they were treating me with made me not be who I wanted to be. I was, sitting on the couch all the time or laying in the bed. I just had
you're not,
no drive at all. And I was in so much pain that the pain made it easy for me to stay home and not be able to do anything or complain. I mean, I complained all the time. I always had a different ailment. And every time I had a different ailment, it was more medication. And so things like that was very difficult to have to deal with.
So I'm assuming mental capacity was depression and
it was very diminished.
How can it not? Yeah, how can it not? So
I was really wanted to just say, okay, just if my body's failing, just let it fail. Let me be done.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like I mentioned, I know the ending, but honest to God, I mean, you're going through and this is, I guess, where, and I don't know any of the pharmaceuticals, but they're not good. They're just, they're just numbing agents, man.
They mask what the actual problem is. So, because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, they were masking to try to help, but it just made things worse for me. And as time went on, how I found these doctors, I would be on my computer, and a lot of times I didn't know what was going on. I was hallucinating. I really didn't know. I really have no idea how I found these doctors, but
you were still searching though.
I was searching.
Was prayer, just before you found?
I did.
Talk to me. Talk about the testimonial.
I did. I prayed to God every day. I'm like, either take me or, help me find help, because not only was I hurting myself mentally, I saw my family being destroyed around me because everybody felt bad for me. Nobody could help me. And I saw my kids seeing me suffer.
Yeah, helpless, man.
My kids suffer was the hardest thing for me, and I had no way to stop it. There was a time I just said, I just want to be done. I don't want to do this anymore.
So if I may, and I'm just, as you can just get your composure, what, as you're unpacking this story, totally relatable, You know, you're at a lowest point where we know how many movies you watch on what the outcome on this exact situation comes to. You know, it's just, but yet you're sharing that glimmer of light on still researching, still trying to fix. I want to know, and I, you know, I mentioned on religion, and you got your kids, is, you know, to continue to be the best version of yourself. In your case, to want to just be better, just to live and be happy again, to feel and see your kids without having tears in your eyes. Do you feel the combination was to continue with that strength? I mean, that's some
Beyond,
serious
I,
strength.
I have no idea. I really don't know what had me continuing looking and searching. I did find my neurologist. He's a pain management neurologist, and I went in to see him. His name's Dr. Charles Argoff, and I owe him my life because I've had
Fantastic.
my doctor to this day, and I fly up to New York every 3 months to see him to refill. We'll get into the pain.
Yeah. So you went and found this guy that
Yes.
advertised symptoms that you were feeling,
If he advertised, but I think I was just looking
or
and I
just
saw that I just made an appointment with him and we went to see him and he knew right away what was wrong with me. He said, I need to do tests. He goes, but I really believe I know what your condition is. And from there, I had more procedures done. And then he told me that one of the best methods would be to have an intrathecal pain pump placed in my abdomen, which goes to my spine. The medication goes into my brain, and then it will help with the pain. But during this time, while I was seeking out doctors, the pain from my right side mirrored to my left side, which made me unable to pretty much walk. Both my legs felt the pain was so excruciating that I couldn't lift them up. I went from 109 pounds to 211 pounds. I was in a hospital bed at my house. I used a walker or somebody had to carry me to
wow,
the bathroom.
man.
We were still trying to figure out why is this happening to my whole body when my legs were not part of my injury. It was my upper
Right.
body and my spine, but it wasn't necessarily my legs. But everything was being affected. Ended up meeting with a neurosurgeon in Louisiana, a Dr. Eric Richter, and he knew another doctor who knew exactly what my condition was. And at the time, they called it reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Now it's called complex regional pain syndrome. He told me what I needed. I spent a week there at his clinic, did a battery of tests, and said I would be a good candidate for this, and I may get some relief with the medication that they wanted to use with the pain pump. So went back to New York. We found a neurosurgeon in New York, and her name is Dr. Julie Politzis. She's no longer at that hospital, but she performed the surgeries to have the intrathecal pain pump placed in my abdomen. That was in 2012. That year was probably the roughest year of my life because I was in the worst shape I could have ever been in. The pain was so excruciating. I was on a lot of medications. I needed to get off medications to have the medication in the pain pump to work effectively.
Right.
So I was even on antidepressants, needed to get off those. And the struggle to get off all that medication is, if you've never been on it, to try to get off it, it really screws with your mind.
Yeah.
And one of the medications that they had me use, although it was an antidepressant, they helped use it for nerve pain. So I didn't necessarily use it for depression. I used it to help with the nerve pain, but I needed to get off some of these medications to try and let this medication that I really would get some relief out of. So I got worse before I got better. Once the medication actually began to work, my sons said to me, my younger son is a personal trainer and he was always into fitness. He wanted to be a bodybuilder like I did. And, he was like, come on, Mom, we got to start going to the gym. And I still use the walker, but I was a little bit more active. I seemed to be happier. So from there, he would take me to
Medicine started taking
it
its
started to
toll.
work.
The power of prayer, Nicole.
Yes, it took a long time. I can't say many times I didn't want to give up. I did because the pain was so excruciating, but I had to give it a chance.
You had a journey.
I had to believe my doctor that he had my best interest at heart, and he did. From that day on, he listened to my complaints. He wasn't a promoter of, here, take this, he wanted to get to the source.
He wanted to find out what the hell was going on
and
solve it.
Help. And, he listened to me. Anytime I said there was a complaint, he knew my complaint was valid. I wasn't, picking it up. it wasn't in my mind. And at that moment, I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm not crazy, because I really believed I was crazy at the time. And unfortunately, my family unit broke apart because of everything that was happening. I mean, there were obviously other things that were going on, but that was a big contributor to it. I ended up just starting going to the gym. My son would have me walk up a couple stairs, go back, and then come back the next day. And then he said, Mom, I think you should have a trainer. So I met this woman at the gym, and she was willing to train me. I tried a few trainers. Nobody wanted to help me because they saw how bad of condition I was in. I have this machine sticking out of my, in my abdomen, but it's very obvious. And I have wires going into my spine. Nobody wanted to touch me. Nobody wanted to help me because they were afraid, they could hurt me. She was willing to take me on, went very slow. And as time went on, I just started becoming more and more active.
You were inspired by your child.
Yes.
You sparked it. And each and every day you built that mind, man. Holy
and I have to say, my younger son was my physical trainer. My older son was my mental trainer. My older son was the one that would listen to me vent and get me back into reality. My younger one was, all right, we need to work out. Now, when I say work out, I wasn't doing much of anything.
Understood. Doing what you can.
Yes, just actually getting some movement in my body to hopefully eventually be done with the walker, the wheelchair, the crutches, the hospital bed. It was things
you were getting rid of things that we take advantage of.
Yes.
Being able to walk, go to the bathroom,
exactly,
your normal
and not
physical,
have to bathe you and feed you. It was something that I never thought I would have to experience, and my kids were doing all this for me.
Kids, man, you raised them right, man.
They're the best kids.
You raised them right. Look at you. But you got to be, I see you smiling. You're thinking of the journey. It was hell and tears, but look at the power of prayer. When you say the power of prayer, your faith, the family. Listen, man, I just got to smile. I am so proud to listen to this. So that takes you when you ignited the walk into the gym the first time.
That was the end of 2013.
How did that feel to be able to open those doors and go into the gym for the first time?
I loved it. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I was already retired. My job, because I was out for so long, retired. I didn't remember that just because I didn't remember much of 2012. So when I was getting better, I was saying, oh, I can't wait to go back to work. And my family's, no, you can't. And I was like, oh, you're all lying. And they're like, no, you can't go back to work. You're in too bad of condition to ever be a police officer again. Everything was crushed once again.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it took a while to deal with that reality also.
That was 2013?
Yes.
2013. Okay. Starting to feel better. Now the medicine and all, and share as much as you want. Was there any surgeries to help fix what it was, or this is just to be able to treat what you're experiencing, to be able to have a more of a normal functioning life?
I'll need this the rest of my life.
Okay, so it's a helper, which is...
Yes. Without it, I will go back to... Exactly. It took me years. It took me years to come to terms with it, because it's a looking piece. People look at it. If I wore a bathing suit, they would see it. And I always felt very self-conscious about it. So as time went on, I dealt with it, but I always kept it covered. And it wasn't until COVID hit and I was in New York, the gyms were all closed down. I became more active. I lost probably 60 pounds. I was 211 pounds, lost, 60 pounds during that time. And a lot of it was swelling that I was experiencing. Lack of activity and, being laid up for so long. So when COVID hit, I turned on YouTube and started doing these animated workouts. My son had a gym in the house, so I would work out there. And I started becoming very obsessed with it. And I kept saying to myself, I always wanted to compete. I'm going to, someday I'm going to do it. And
That is,
I was saying I wanted to do it, but
I love it.
I really didn't think it was going to actually ever become a reality. So as time went on, I'm trying to think so it was 2020. I moved to Florida in 2022. I moved down to Florida to be closer to my mom. When I moved there, my kids were both out of the house. They lived out of state. I said, I'm going to start posting like just little workout videos. And I started really getting into shape. And I was talking to my younger son, Joe, and I said, I've been really thinking about, I'm going to be, 50, not too, very soon. I'm like,
wow. Look at what I can't believe what I'm hearing right now. This is awesome, man. Your workout videos, thinking about bodybuilding. Wait a minute.
Well, I was thinking about it, whether I thought it would actually happen.
You were just telling me you were lying in a hospital bed, 200 pounds. Now you're talking about stepping on the power of a man. Just the power of my mind, the power of prayer, your mind. Just kudos to you. This is why I love interviewing people. Every single person has a journey. Your journey was truly special that you wanted to get it out there. But man, when you hear this of yourself, you're going to be like, man, I am fucking tough. Yeah, I am tough. That's right. You are.
That's what my parents did, is raise me to be a tough child.
Yeah, that's awesome, though. So, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to just reiterate that. So you're thinking about maybe going to show. Take me there.
Just happened to mention to my son, Joe, that, I was really thinking maybe I could do like bikini division or something. I don't know. I've been talking about it. He's like, well, is it something you want to do or you just feel like you need to do? He's like, don't do something that you're not passionate about. And I was like, oh, let me think about it. No sooner does that happen, 2 days later, a childhood friend, Michelle LeBlanc, sends me a message on Facebook or Instagram and said, I've been watching your workout videos. Did you ever think about competing? I am a bikini pro. And I was like, my goodness. I'm like, if this is not my calling, I'm like,
that is awesome.
And I told her, what was going on. I said, hey, I have this medical device. I don't know. She's like, so what? She goes, are you able to exercise and, to eat certain things? And I'm like, yeah, there's no restriction there. And she said, so what's stopping you? And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm scared, I guess. And he said to me, scared. And her and I had this joke when we were a kid, how we would act like bulls and, just ram through people. And we were kids. And to this day we talk, she's like, that's not the Nikki I know. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I go, okay. She goes, there's a show coming up in, it was it 2025? So it was May of 2023. It was the OCB, A Spirit of America. She said, they have this category for heroes. She goes, it's 16 weeks out. She goes, have your last hurrah tonight, eat whatever you want. Tomorrow we're starting. And I was like, oh my God, shit's getting real.
That's awesome, man.
So we started and, we were doing everything, through FaceTime. And she said, I really think you need to find a local coach, opposing coach. She goes, as much as I love to do this with you, I really think you need to find somebody local. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So I found in Tampa, the OCB, I think it was Marcus Harris. I went to one of their posing clinics.
Right.
Drove all the way to Tampa from Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, because I didn't know anybody at all. And he was like, you drove all this way? I'm like, yeah, I just want to pose. So he said, I'll put you in touch with people, closer to you, which he did. He introduced me to my current coach, my first coach, only coach, Dave Bogan from Top Tier Physiques, and Rich Alvarez, who is an NPC promoter. I met with both of them and I explained to them my situation and, my disability. And I think Rich said to me, okay, so can you exercise? Did you get the doctor's clearance? And I'm like, yeah, the doctor gave me clearance to exercise. And he's like, okay, then what's the problem? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, come on, let's go. And
that's awesome.
My coach Dave started nutrition and my body just started to transform from being fit to being right. And me, I never thought of myself as a bikini competitor. but I needed to start somewhere. I always wanted to flex. I mean, that was the thing. When I was a teenager with my cousin, we would flex. We would do all the Arnold poses, and we would just, do everything. I love doing most muscular, and, I just love to pose. But we started there. I placed 4th and 5th there, talked to the judges. They said, you have too many striations. You need to soften up. If you don't want to soften up, go to a different category. And I said, listen, I'm going to be 50, or I just turned 50. I said, I'll soften up when I'm in the nursing home. I'm not softening up now.
Yeah.
So my coach, and he said, him and Rich, they talked, and they were, what do you want to do? And I said, I like to pose. So I went to a group posing class, and they're like, all right, start posing. And I was posing, and my coach said to me, it took you 16 weeks to walk in heels in 3 minutes to do these poses. I said, it's what I'm passionate about. So I switched from bikini to women's physique. Although I did try master's bikini a few times, in between, but it was women's physique was where my passion was.
Hey, man, that's awesome.
Comfortable.
Good for you. That is outstanding. I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Good for you. What a friggin' story. So this brings us 2025. So what are you up to now? Your work, what are you up to?
So in 2023 to 2024, I was on the competition stage. I wanted to hit as many shows as I could. And then I'm a natural athlete. So I hit the USBF show in Florida, in Tampa, Florida, the Fit Fest. And that's when I became a pro in September.
Outstanding. Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome.
Probably the best day of my entire life when it came to a dream that I needed to accomplish.
Good for you.
Hitting that stage again as a pro, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, good for you. Well, congratulations. Congratulations. What an unbelievable journey. I'm telling you.
Thanks.
If you're not proud of yourself, I am. You should be, man.
Thank you. Man, some days I find it surreal, and I've had such a great network of friends down here in Florida. They've all supported me. They're all bodybuilders, and they see my determination, and I train with them. We work out together, and they all believe in me. And that's really so important to me, because I doubted myself all the time, and getting up on stage, having to show my abdomen and the physical disability that I have was very scary for me. And and not one person judged me. Not one person judged me on that disability. They all looked at me as though just as another person. And I always felt, I was judging myself more than everybody else was judging me.
Of course. And just, hearing what your comment was on, continually needing reinforcement, I can certainly understand that. And hopefully, from this point on, that needing reinforcement just is an encouragement, but yet not a need. You really needed it. And the reason on when you were at your lowest point, Nicole, when you were feeling pain and nobody believed you, to get lost in that and, having people question you and you start to question yourself, that programmed the mind on one big question mark to finally find the doctor to help you and say, you're not crazy, man. You do have pain,
Yes. And once he did that, the relief.
Can you imagine?
It was a long road. I know we summed everything up within a short amount of time, and it may sound as though it wasn't as excruciating as
excruciating, man. I mean, come on. I feel your pain hearing the story.
I did lose a lot, but I gained a lot back. And I've, from everything I lost, I gained myself back, and I lost myself, and I will never do that again. I never take anything for granted again. I go to that gym, and when I go to that gym, I train like I have never trained before in my life, because I know what it's like to not be able to do it. And I think that's what motivates me every day to go into that gym and to train as hard as I possibly can. And I do have days where my body does not feel good. I mean, I can't say I feel great every day. At night, for me, is when the pain gets the worst. When my body is in a relaxed state, the nerve pain is excruciating sometimes at night. I can't say I have everything is great, but I try to keep a positive attitude. I try to keep a smile and not let it bring me down. But I know my limitations. I know what I can do to help, and nothing will ever break me. If that didn't break me, it came close, came very close.
Listen,
but
you were bent. You were bent. You were bent, and you now, as being in and around the bodybuilding and an active competitor, judge, all the above for 30 years, I could say this. It's like you are an inspiration. The mere fact that you have something attached to you to help you live a better quality life and what you went through needs to be shouted from the rooftops. And this is the whole point of this channel. This is the whole point on the organization that I created, is where when you're standing on stage, and as judges and individuals, or just, you're on the beach. I'm not going to narrow it down just to bodybuilding stage, but anywhere where it's obvious you have something on you, whatever it may be on your belly. I don't know specifically to the magnitude, but no one knows specifically what the backstory is. They just see. And having them tune in, an individual tune in and listen to this backstory, gives me chills just hearing the strength of a person going through what you went through to come out the other side and continue to be the best version of herself and not let the fucking gas come up. You just pedal to the metal, man. That is amazing within itself, to stand on stage, stand proud, and be able to just show that anything's possible. You were bent, but never be broken. That outstanding, man. Golf clap.
Thank you. Thank you.
Outstanding. All right. So I've got 2 questions for you, because I could talk. I love listening to the power of a strong woman all night, but 2 questions. The first is this. I'm really interested on what you're going to say, but if you had a chance to jump into the Back to the Future car and went back in time, all the way at some point in time before it really started unfolding in a not so great way, what would you say to yourself to prepare?
That's a one.
That's
what
a
would
tough
I say?
one for you. What would you say to a young Nicole to prepare her for the journey that you experienced? What would you say?
Stay true to yourself. Don't give up, because you're going to have things that are going to have struggles throughout your whole life, no matter what it is. You need to persevere. You need to overcome. And the way I was raised, the way my family raised me, was just not to give up. For me, it was, you are strong. You're resilient. You'll get through this. You've been through so much already. You're going to get through this. You're going to deal with the good. You're going to deal with the bad. You're going to deal with so many different things in life. And this is just going to prepare you to be the best version of you. And you're going to come out stronger than you ever have been. And this part of your life is probably going to be the best part of your life. So deal with the bad and accept the good when it does come. And take the constructive criticism from people now, take the negative feedback and internalize it and make it powerful to you, to show everybody that didn't believe in me, that gave up on me, that stopped talking to me. They see me now and they're regretting feeling that way about me, because this is who I've always been. It's just I had a setback, and my setback made me become who I am today.
That's awesome, man. I love the tone of your voice and the authoritative that you just expressed that, man. That was shit. When you listen to this, man. Well, you know what? You just, like, when I was spinning back.
My sister, I have to give my sister a lot of credit, because she went through a lot with me, and she's my biggest supporter. When I got my pro card, I've never seen her so happy in her life.
Awesome.
She knew how I was. She knew that I was this person, and she knew as a young age, she would see me flexing all the time. And she said, I can't believe you did this. She goes, and then she would say to me, I knew you could do it. She goes, but you were in such a bad way. I really thought I was going to lose you, Nikki, and I didn't want to lose my sister.
That is like that. You know what? And I'm so happy it came out right now, is where I was trying to establish the strength of that mind early on. And it's the power of that attitude of family instilled in you. Everybody instilled that strength. Mom, dad, this was your cousin?
This was my sister, and
I'm sorry, your sister, and all just, right, your sister just feeding that. You just, your attitude, man. When you listen to this, what an attitude of authoritative, man. You just gave yourself shit. Your young self was listening.
it was.
That was
And
awesome.
I had to have family members move in with me when I was, unable to care for myself. And my cousin, he was like my little brother, came in with me. And I remember being in a bad way, and I'd just be sitting at the table, half zoned out. And he'd be like, "Nikki, you're stronger than this. Come on, you got to get through this." And he's still my little brother. He's my cousin, but he's my little brother. And to this day, he's another one that said, "I knew you could get through this. I knew you could. I knew you could do it."
Shit.
And seeing their faces, seeing my son's faces, and seeing my whole family smile at the way I am now. And maybe they get sick of my workout videos and me flexing all the time.
No, man. Hell no. That's
No,
awesome.
they're very happy for me, and they'd rather see me this way than bedridden.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. All right. I mean, this is an easy one, but I'm just going to ask you anyway. So this symbol, the heart, the EKG, the weights, it's a symbol of representation of my inner me. I have not yet shared any of my journeys because it's not my time, but that heart of mind, body, soul, the EKG is life, how it goes up and down. The weights are how life could feel. But that word represents, what does that represent? Does that represent anything with you?
For me, it represents my whole entire life.
Yeah, man.
It does. And I think I put in my little questionnaire down what can't be broken. And, it's lyrics, but it's true. You can be bent. You can have trials and tribulations, but, you can't break down something that's
awesome.
Not able to be broken. And I'm proof that I was not able to break. I came close.
Hell
but
no. Yeah, maybe some cracks. Hell no.
Yeah.
Nicole, what an honor, man, to talk.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you
having me. And it's
God.
time for me to even talk about my story. It wasn't until recently that I just started talking about it. I've never been able to do that because it's so emotional. And, there's a lot of things that I don't talk about and I'm not ready to talk about yet. But just to get this part out.
Hell yeah. You're an inspiration, man. And
you.
if you feel that urge, which you did because you came on, it's going to be blasted, immortalized on the YouTube channel forever. So yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I love it and I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much
for having me. I really appreciate it.
All righty.